Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most shocking and talked about events in recent times, the massive explosion that destroyed part of the Crimea Bridge, all caught on camera. This event has shaken not only Russia and Ukraine but the entire world, reigniting discussions about the ongoing war, security failures, and the future of the region. The Crimea Bridge, often seen as a symbol of Russian control over Crimea, has once again become the center of global attention after this powerful explosion ripped through it, sending shockwaves across political and military circles. The footage that surfaced online showed a fiery blast erupting on the bridge, followed by thick black smoke and burning debris falling into the sea. Cars and trucks nearby were thrown into chaos as flames spread rapidly across the span. The bridge, also known as the Kerch Strait Bridge, connects mainland Russia to the Crimean Peninsula, making it a vital supply route for Moscow's military operations in southern Ukraine. Its destruction has significant strategic and symbolic consequences, affecting logistics, morale, and Russia's image of control in the region. According to reports, the explosion occurred early in the morning, when traffic was relatively light, which may have reduced the number of casualties. However, the sheer force of the blast was enough to cause part of the bridge to collapse, disrupting both road and rail transport. Videos shared on social media showed the moment of impact from multiple angles, highlighting the intensity of the detonation. Some clips even captured secondary explosions, suggesting that fuel or ammunition might have been present on the vehicles involved. Russian authorities were quick to label the incident a terrorist attack, pointing fingers at Ukrainian forces and intelligence operations. Ukraine, on the other hand, has not officially confirmed or denied involvement, but several Ukrainian officials hinted that the bridge was a legitimate military target. They argue that the bridge supplies Russian troops with ammunition, fuel, and reinforcements, making it a fair target in the context of war. The conflicting narratives have fueled international speculation, with analysts debating the methods and motivations behind the attack. One key question is how such a heavily guarded and monitored structure could be hit so effectively. The bridge is known to be under constant surveillance by Russian security forces, including drones, patrol boats, and anti-aircraft systems. Some theories suggest that the explosion may have been caused by a truck bomb that detonated while crossing the bridge. Others believe that it might have been a coordinated strike using drones or underwater devices. Whatever the cause, the precision and impact of the explosion indicate a high level of planning and intelligence. The Kremlin's initial response was to launch a swift investigation and tighten security measures around critical infrastructure. Russian President Vladimir Putin publicly condemned the attack, calling it an act of terrorism orchestrated by Ukrainian intelligence. He vowed retaliation, warning that those responsible would face severe consequences. Within hours, Russia launched missile strikes against multiple Ukrainian cities, targeting energy facilities and transport networks in what many saw as direct retribution for the Crimea Bridge explosion. The symbolic importance of the bridge cannot be overstated. Built after Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014, the structure was meant to physically and politically connect the peninsula to the Russian mainland. It became a powerful emblem of Russian pride and engineering, personally inaugurated by Putin himself. Destroying it strikes at the very heart of Moscow's narrative of control. For Ukrainians, however, the bridge represents occupation and aggression. Its destruction, whether partial or total, carries immense psychological and strategic weight in the ongoing conflict. In the immediate aftermath, satellite images and drone footage revealed extensive damage to both the roadway and railway sections of the bridge. Several spans collapsed into the water, while others were scorched and twisted from the blast. Repair efforts began almost immediately, but experts warned that full restoration could take months or even longer. Meanwhile, the disruption has severely impacted Russian supply lines to the southern front, especially around Kherson and Zaporizhia, where intense fighting continues. As news of the explosion spread, global reactions poured in. Western nations viewed the event as a major setback for Russia's military operations, though most stopped short of celebrating. Officials from the United States and European Union reiterated their support for Ukraine while expressing concern about potential Russian escalation. On the other hand, Russian state media attempted to downplay the extent of the damage, claiming that traffic would resume soon and repairs were already underway. However, independent analysis of satellite data and open-source intelligence suggested that the destruction was far more severe than Moscow admitted. Social media exploded with reactions. Millions of viewers watched the dramatic footage, commenting on the symbolism and possible implications. Memes, analyses, and conspiracy theories flooded platforms like Twitter, Telegram, and YouTube. Many Ukrainians saw it as poetic justice, while Russian nationalists expressed anger and disbelief. The psychological blow was undeniable, even if the physical damage could eventually be repaired. For Russia, this was not just an attack on infrastructure but on national prestige. Experts in military strategy noted that the timing of the explosion was significant. It came as Ukrainian forces were making advances in the south and east, reclaiming territories occupied by Russia. Damaging the bridge at that moment disrupted Russia's logistics and forced them to reroute supplies through less secure land routes. This not only slowed down their operations but also strained resources. For Ukraine, whether or not it officially claims responsibility, the attack aligns perfectly with its broader strategy of undermining Russia's military capabilities. Investigators later reported that the blast originated from a truck that exploded mid-span, suggesting a suicide or remotely triggered bomb. Russian officials released video footage showing a white truck entering the bridge moments before the explosion. However, many observers questioned the authenticity of the footage, noting inconsistencies and possible edits. Ukrainian intelligence sources hinted that the operation could have involved multiple coordinated elements, including reconnaissance drones and local informants. The sophistication of the attack left little doubt that it was a meticulously planned mission. The aftermath of the explosion revealed deeper cracks in Russia's war management. Questions arose about how a supposedly secure and vital route could be so vulnerable. Even Russian bloggers and military commentators, usually loyal to the Kremlin, criticized the authorities for failing to protect such a critical asset. Some warned that if the bridge could be hit, other key infrastructure sites across Russia might also be at risk. The sense of vulnerability spread among Russian civilians and soldiers alike. Meanwhile, Ukrainian morale soared. The images of the burning bridge became a powerful symbol of resistance and defiance. Across Ukrainian cities, people celebrated the news, waving flags and sharing the videos as proof that Russia's grip was not unbreakable. The event also bolstered international confidence in Ukraine's capability to strike high-value targets, further motivating allies to provide more advanced weapons and intelligence support. The bridge explosion thus became not only a military success but also a psychological victory. As weeks passed, Russia intensified its missile campaigns against Ukraine, striking energy infrastructure and residential areas. Officials justified these attacks as retaliation for the Crimea Bridge explosion. However, analysts noted that this shift in strategy revealed frustration and desperation rather than strength. The focus on civilian targets drew widespread condemnation and accusations of war crimes. Meanwhile, the damaged bridge continued to slow down Russia's military logistics, giving Ukraine valuable time to regroup and counterattack. Repair efforts faced multiple challenges. Engineers had to deal with destroyed sections, damaged supports, and unstable debris in the water. Temporary lanes were set up to allow limited traffic, but heavy military supplies could not pass easily. The railway line, essential for transporting fuel and ammunition, remained partially closed for months. Each delay compounded Russia's logistical struggles, forcing them to rely more on vulnerable ferries and overland routes through occupied territories. This logistical bottleneck significantly influenced the dynamics of the war on the southern front. The explosion also triggered debates within Russia about accountability and competence. Some politicians demanded a complete overhaul of security operations, while others accused Western intelligence agencies of assisting Ukraine. The Kremlin maintained a narrative of resilience, promising that the bridge would be fully restored stronger than before. Yet, the cracks in confidence were visible. Ordinary Russians began to question how long the war could continue and whether their leadership could protect them from further humiliation. In Ukraine, the incident became a rallying point for unity. It symbolized not just a physical blow to the enemy but a moral victory for a nation fighting for survival. The burning bridge came to represent the breaking of chains, the defiance of an occupied people, and the hope of eventual liberation. Artists, musicians, and influencers turned the imagery of the explosion into songs, posters, and slogans. The cultural impact extended far beyond the battlefield, shaping national identity in the face of adversity. Internationally, analysts assessed the strategic implications. By hitting the Crimea Bridge, Ukraine demonstrated that Russian military infrastructure, no matter how heavily fortified, was not invincible. It shifted global perceptions of the conflict, showing that Russia's dominance was not absolute. Military experts argued that this could influence future negotiations and geopolitical calculations, possibly altering the course of the war. The psychological impact on both sides could prove as decisive as the physical damage itself. Months later, as repairs continued, reports surfaced of additional attacks targeting temporary repair sites and supply ferries near the bridge. These incidents indicated that Ukraine was determined to keep pressure on Russia's logistics. Each new explosion served as a reminder that control over Crimea remained contested. The repeated strikes also kept international attention focused on the region, ensuring that the bridge remained a symbol of resistance and vulnerability alike. Even today, the image of that massive explosion remains etched in the minds of millions. It marked a turning point in the war, a moment when symbolism and strategy collided in a single, fiery event. The destruction of the Crimea Bridge did more than damage steel and concrete, it shattered illusions of invulnerability and exposed the fragility of power. Whether viewed as an act of resistance or terrorism depends on perspective, but its impact is undeniable. The event also underscored the role of technology and intelligence in modern warfare. The precision, timing, and coordination suggest a new era where even the most protected targets are vulnerable. It reminded the world that in this conflict, no location is truly safe, and that information warfare is as powerful as physical weapons. The bridge explosion became a case study for military planners worldwide, illustrating how infrastructure can become both a target and a message. As the war continues, the legacy of the Crimea Bridge explosion lives on. For Russia, it remains a scar and a challenge to rebuild. For Ukraine, it stands as proof of resilience and ingenuity. For the world, it is a sobering reminder of how fragile peace can be and how quickly symbols of strength can turn into symbols of weakness. The burning bridge over the Kerch Strait is more than a structure, it's a story of defiance, destruction, and determination that continues to shape the course of history. In the end, the explosion that destroyed the Crimea Bridge was not just an isolated event, it was a message, one that echoed across continents. It told the world that even in the face of overwhelming power, resistance can find a way. It showed that in war, symbols matter as much as strategy, and perception can be as powerful as any weapon. The footage, burned into global consciousness, will remain a reminder of how a single explosion can change everything, from military calculations to the morale of nations. The Crimea Bridge may one day be rebuilt, but the impact of that fiery morning will never be erased from history.